puis on n'existe pas pour personne.
C'est ma tante. Hein? C'est la sœur aînée de mon père. Je cherchais un endroit pour la loger, un endroit discret. Elle a nulle part où aller.
Oh, c'est beau ici.
J'ai toujours été clair que je prendrais ma retraite dans le bois. Puis que cette vie-là, je la vivre à mon goût.
C'est ma première vie. Et j'y tiens.
So I would like to say welcome to this special event for Canada Now, which is a spotlight on new Canadian cinema. And this is presented by Téléfilm Canada in collaboration with the High Commission of Canada in the UK. So I am in the UK and not from London. Usually I'm in London, but I'm at the moment in Surrey, just to geographically locate ourselves, which I will ask our filmmaker Louise to do soon too, because we're quite far apart. So this is a Canada-UK connection, and we are going to be talking to Louise Archambault about the writer-director of And the Birds Rain Down, which is a stunning piece of work, which I really can't wait to get into with her. There's a lot to unpack. And I, just so you know who I am, my name is Mia Bays and I run Bird's Eye View. So we are connected already by birds. Birds in the UK means, or is also slang for woman, but also it's a camera position. So it's obviously that the bird sort of sees everything. And we started life as a film festival showing only films by women. And in 2003, we've been doing this a long time. And now we work year round and we are a mission to bring ever greater audiences to films by women. So we are cultural activists. I am also a filmmaker. So I've produced films by people like Martin McDonagh, which won an Oscar, films about musicians, Scott Walker, with exec produced by David Bowie, worked on several films with Riz Ahmed, and everyone at Bird's Eye View is like me. So we all use our influence to change, to flip the script and bring more films by women to British audiences. So our mission to do that is called Reclaim the Frame. So that's our hashtag, which is about recognizing, Louise, I will get into this much more with you, that, you know, who holds the power is who decides what we look at and who writes what we hear and what we see also. And that it's about the female perspective. So it's about not centering women within the frame, but about women. And by that, we mean all women, however one identifies, by deciding, reclaiming who decides what goes in the frame. And so we largely center new films, but also films from all over the world and archive films too. So it's a real pleasure to meet you, Louise Archambault, and your beautiful film And the Birds Rain Down. So welcome.
Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor.
So I really wanted to start, actually, before we start on the film, I would always love finding out how people get into film. So did film choose you, or did you choose film, or was it a sort of merger of two? So tell us your kind of inciting incident.
It could be a long conversation just about that. But I guess it's a mixture of both. I thought I would go into science because I was going, in high school in a science school. I didn't choose it; it was that, and I really love like all is what is neurology and ophthalmology and stuff. But I always did some art crafts. And at some point, while choosing a school, I went to visit a school and there were like cameras and stuff and could invent stories. And I was like, wow, I can do that. So I just explored writing and various ways of art making. And in the meanwhile, I did start to make, films that way. But few years later, I was like, gosh, my grandparents did teach me filmmaking because they used to have in their basement, they did create viewing screening, like a projection room. And my grandfather used to have two 60 millimeter cameras and would film things. And my grandmother would find the music to go with it, and they would like edit the film and stuff and when they would travel and stuff. And my grandfather was like, he was a kid. He would love like Laurel and Hardy or Woody Woodpecker. So for his grandchildren, he would love to have them, all of us there and, view those films. So, and then when I was a teenager, I would go with both of my grandmothers to the film, to go see films. And at some point, like my grandmother, one of her favorite films is Hiroshima, Mon Amour by René. So, it grew on me probably. But
Yeah,
mostly, I think it's to search. It wasn't the feeling of I want to make films because I want to make films. It's like, what do I have to say? It's like a transmission. You have stories or you have characters that you want to share it with others, I think.
Mm-hmm. And so this is your third feature, and it's based on a book. So tell us about the genesis of this. Like, did you read the book and go, my God, I have to make this into a film, or was there another route?
Yes, I did read the book, and it was beautiful book. It was structured differently than the film. It was each chapter was a character. But there was something about that novel and those characters and the subjects as well that was bigger than me. It was something that was like, and after a few months I would still do my things and work and read other things, and that story stayed in me and was like, I need to do something. I saw images, I could smell it. So I did reach, the author, and then actually my grandmother read the novel and was like, do you think it could make a film, And she was like, wow, there's something quite grand about the subject. It's about, love, openness, and freedom. And about outcast as well. So yeah, but then again, I was beginning to write. I was like, who's gonna go see a film, deep in the forest with old hermits, like, what's that, But I did it. Yeah.
And so, can you just contextualize actually? So you're tell us where you are actually. So educate us, because obviously you're talking to a British audience. So first of all, tell us where you're coming from, and give us a bit of a context around the culture before then we move into the story, because I feel like context is kind of important.
Yeah, for sure. So I am in Montreal, in the province of Quebec in Canada, so on the east part of it. And Quebec is the French part of Canada. And yes, up north we have, in Quebec, we have many forests as well. And we have like the border, like the story, it occurs in the border of Ontario, the other province, which is more Anglophone. And so, yeah, that's the context. And so, but we're linked. We're like a mixture of, Americans and Europeans, because we speak French, because our culture as well. So, do you know, like Asterix, the little Gaulois? We're like that, We're just fighting for our culture, our language as well. But I think, as for now, the mixture, it works well, So we're very Latin, but then again, for the structure, I think we're very Anglo-Saxon as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And also, could you explain the Great Fires? Because I feel like that's it. I mean, that is a true occurrence, right? And it's the backdrop for this film. So before we get into the story, can you just give us some historical context as well? Because it feels very significant, and it's not something I knew about.
Okay. Well, in the novel, they talk about the great fires that occurred like at the beginning of the last century, and it did destroy, many villages and a big part of it. So many people, families just died in that in those fire forests. But I didn't since I did, make the film last year, it couldn't be the same fire forest. I gave it's more generic, but then again, there are still fire forests, every year, many every year, and now it's everywhere. You hear about it, of course, in California, in Australia, and more it goes with the climate change, and more we have fire forests. So it's a real issue. And in that story, the forest is a character by itself. So there's something, it says something about us humans in that, I think we have to be more humble with that. What surrounds us.
And I mean, that's a very important jumping off point, isn't it, for all of the characters and all of the story, that everyone, I feel like there's so much that's fresh about this film, that usually trauma is very much embedded in everyone's experience. Everyone's sort of running from it, or just was not aware of what they were running from, that maybe it was kind of from a previous generation. And usually that one doesn't see an older generation dealing with trauma. It's usually in cinema something that you see younger people dealing with, and there's something very powerful. Can you tell us about your approach to the film, to the story really, and the characters, and how important that was to kind of get right?
Well, I didn't approach it on the trauma aspect. I really did approach it on love. Yes. And the right to choose your life or death. And so each character, they have their path. And like there's one character, Boychuk, who is only at the beginning of the film, but he's the inciting incident of the whole film. So we talk about him the whole time. And he lost, his whole family in the fire forest. When he was 15, he saw him dead. And so, and he at some point, he did struggle with love. And we understand that he had difficulty to choose, but maybe he couldn't love anymore because of what he did experience. And then so he did paint his past and the fire forest, just as to let it out. And he did his path is that he did the only way to survive was to isolate himself in the forest. That's the way he could deal with it. As if at the opposite, you have that character, Gertrude, who becomes Marie des Neiges, who was unjustly put in a mentally, how do you say that?
Psychiatric hospital.
Yeah. And so at the age of past 80 years old, she's out, and for some reasons, she arrives in the forest. So her whole life, she didn't have access to her freedom, to love. And at some point, the path just goes the opposite. And it's about the openness, whatever you did experience, whatever your past, whatever it's happening now, maybe if you open up a bit, there's some great things that could happen to you. And I think it's not about the age, it's about whatever the openness you can have towards yourself and towards the others.
And it's also, as you said, about people who are kind of living outside modernity as well, isn't it? It's also about people choosing their own path, which is sort of outside normal living circumstances. And so can you talk, are you drawn to that yourself? It looks like you live in a city, but what's your own personal interest in living outside of modern spaces and living in nature?
That's a good question. I hope that I did think a lot about freedom. I don't have the perfect answer as for now in my life. I think freedom, the real freedom, it's a day-to-day, we're lucky. We're like in the countries that we have access to that. So many countries, especially for women, are people who don't have anything, It's a struggle, everyday struggle. You survive. Us, we have the luxury to choose. And I think freedom, as for me, is to be to accept the choice you make in the present moment. So sometimes it's not a great choice, you have, but you say, okay, let's say basic thing. I did choose that work. It's difficult, but I did choose it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm gonna. So for sure, you're more free if you accept it. But then again, you don't have to accept everything. And for sure, in that situation of that film, it's quite, you go into the forest, you live with not much. It's really the extreme that what you can have. But I really love that. Actually, now I'm in the city, but only for one day. I'm in the forest for 3 weeks now, but not much. I love it. I swim in the lake many times a day. My son goes to fishing, and there's something very simple about that, and you feel stronger. I think you feel connected. And I was talking about humility, about things. I like to surf as well, just to be connected with the elements. For me, I'm more grounded afterwards. It's like, okay, you don't know what's going to happen. I can die tomorrow, I don't know. But what can I accomplish now for me, and then for the others? Because if you're okay with yourself, I think you're more generous towards others. So.
Yes, beautiful answer. I agree. Can you talk us through the casting of the main characters, because they're amazing, and what you're asking the actors to do is very confrontational for them personally as well. I mean, they're actors, of course, but still, it's you go very deep. So talk us through how you cast and how you then work with the actors.
Yeah, well, afterwards I was like, gosh, they did that. We were like deep in the forest. No electricity, no running water. With, what do you call that? They eat your blood.
Mosquitoes.
No.
Oh,
water.
Oh God, I know what you mean. It will come back to us. Yeah.
Leeches. Yeah. Leeches. Oh my God. Anyways, well, when I was writing, that actress who plays Gertrude, Marie des Neiges, André Lachapelle, I thought of her, and so I did propose, that part. And actually, it was her favorite, novel in the last years, and she would offer that book to her friends for like a year. And she was like, she didn't want to play anymore, to act, because her age, and she had, her husband just passed away, who was a filmmaker, and she did take care of him, and she was tired. But that role, she said, I have to do it. That's And so André, and then as for Gilbert Sicotte, who plays Charlie. In the story, he's older, but then again, I did work with Gilbert before, and everything he does, like in film, he creates magic. He's so into details, and he works. He did work out before. He was like, I'm a hermit in the forest. I have to work out and stuff, and he was so generous, so generous. And as if for Rémi Girard, who plays Tom, that was very difficult. I did look for someone who speaks French, an actor who plays guitar, who sings, who can be funny, but then again deep, who's like 70-ish years old. So I did look in Europe, like in France and Canada, and it was, and everyone was like, okay, like a musician would say, I won't be a good actor, and then musicians would say, oh, I cannot, or actors would say, oh, no, I'm not good at guitar, and other older musicians would say, I cannot play guitar anymore, I have arthritis and stuff. I was like, oh gosh. And at some point, Rémi Girard knew about that that film and that part, and he did send me 2 songs that he sang, and it was a song by Tom Waits and another French song, and I was like, gosh, he sings super well. So I sent the script. The day after, he phoned his agent and was like, I need to do that part. So we meet. And then I was like, well, Remy, I really like you and stuff, but gosh, I think, the character is older. He was like, I'm old, I'm 69, It's okay. It's like, I thought, I would find someone, skinny, very, the life that hit him and alcoholic type. It was like, okay, I'm not skinny, but I know that part. And then we talked for like an hour and a half about life. And my previous film was a film called Gabrielle, and it was with a mentally challenged woman who was in a choir. So there was a lot of music, and we did talk about music and film and stuff, and the way I work. And then he talked about his son, 20 years old son, very deeply handicapped. And then we talked about life and being parents, and we were emotional. And I was like, Remy, that's what I want in the character. It's a part of you. And he said, I will give everything. And they were super generous. And for André Lachapelle, there's a love scene, intimacy scene in the film. It was at 87 years old. It was the first time she made love on screen.
Wow.
So you're in the cabin, deep in the forest, and that was a moment. And both of the actors, they were so generous. They were like, let's go, At the beginning, she couldn't, because we did have a medic with us, and because of her, situation for the insurance, we didn't have any choice. And her heart pressure was, blood pressure was too high. We couldn't shoot, so we did shoot other things. At some point, she came to me and she said, "I'm ready. Let's do it." And both of the actors, they did put their egos before, out of there, out of the forest, and they were there looking at each other. And when I do love scenes in every film I do or TV series, I'm like an auction dealer, and I talk all the time. So it's like, okay, Gilbert, put your hand, no, the left hand, and left hand. Okay, smooth, okay, go there. André, kiss him, smoother. And so I talk all the time. So it's good for the camera and focus puller. And we're like a close set. And the actors, they like it. It's like a ballet, because they can just abandon themselves to one another. And they know I'm going to be, I'm going to take care of them, because I would used to joke and tell them, you're going to be the sex symbols in Quebec of the 2020 sex symbols. So, and they did actually in Quebec, the prizes for film, they did, each of them won the best actor and best actress.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, yeah. And those performances are just so beautiful, and they do feel, brave is an overused word, but bold but comfortable.
And just to finish, André Lachapelle, now I dedicate my film to her. She passed away last fall. And
wow.
And actually she did choose to go away. So yeah, she asked for medical aid, and her son, he thinks that the film made her think about that. But because when she started the film, she had difficulty to walk, and she was, and she had difficulty to learn her lines, and she was like, and it's quite frustrating, when you're an actress. And she was, super talented actress, and she was like, oh gosh, and then, but she was trooper. At the middle of the film, she would like do the 4x4 fishing and be trooper, and she would tell the technicians, that film makes me come back to life. But then she got cancer, and she didn't want all the treatments. And at some point she said, I had a great life, and that's the way I want to go. And so the film was released, and 2 months afterwards, she passed away. So that's
Oh, wow. Oh my God, that's even more poignant. That's
yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah, it's difficult because it's really one of the top 5 women in that I met, that funny, generous, never into, and she's beautiful, but never into that. We would live for the film in a camp. The rooms, it was like a mixture between a dorm room or prison. The thin mattresses, and we didn't have any toilets. The toilets was like 2 minutes away. So, and we had, at the beginning, no hot water, nothing. And she would learn her lines with like a lamp here on her head that we bought. And she was super happy. She was like, I'm with my friends, and she would love the other actors. And, that's for me, it's a learning, I hope to be half of her, what she was,
Wow, what a legacy and what a lesson for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so can you talk to us about music? Seems is really vital to the characterization. So was that in the book? Did you put that in the script? You talked a bit about music's important to you in your films. So talk to us about how you chose those songs and what they represent.
Music, I guess music, it's for me, film, it's a mixture of all those, art forms. The image, the actors, the locations, music, and even sound editing. You create the wholeness. I want to bring the audience inside those images. And as for the music, Tom sings a few songs, and in the novel, it says that he did play guitar at some point in his life, but it's not about that. And I thought it was a nice way to go into his sensitivity and his emotional path, to go with the music, because he's someone more, boy and grumpy, and so it was a way, an extension of his emotions and how he feels. So I did choose all those songs for that. So for what it says, it's an extension of Tom. And as for the rest, the other musics, it was a connection with emotions, but with the forest, a lot with the forest. Yeah.
And can you talk a bit about why you're drawn to stories? I read an interview with you, and you said that you're drawn to stories not often explored on screen. So can you talk a little bit about why that is? Like, what do you feel what are you excavating as a filmmaker? Why do you want to shine the light on stories that are unexplored? Where does that come from?
Actually, I didn't ask for that. It's when journalists ask me some questions afterwards, after 3-4 films, I was like, oh gosh, why do I always choose those subjects, difficult subjects to and then so I have to think about why. And I guess it's what I was saying previously. It's about it just touches me, moves me, those characters or some subjects. I think they're bigger than what we're experiencing. It's, you don't look only at your, how do you say that, your belly, it's just,
yes,
belly button, you go broader. And I guess what I'm drawn when I see films or art, I guess I'm drawn to that. I guess some characters, I think, and when I was a kid, I thought everyone on the planet, on Earth, I would imagine everyone, just naked or with only like briefs, white briefs, everyone, babies, older, some can walk or not, whatever the color, whatever, And then we just like, we're born, we live, and then we die. We're all the same, but in different situations, in different cultures, and different. Some are more privileged than others. And what do we do with that? What do we do? You know, what's our goal in life? And I think it's love, to be loved, and to have our own dignity. I think it's the three basic things. So I guess I'm always drawn to those characters that they're the same, they're different but the same, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I relate to that, actually.
Mm-hmm. And Gertrude as a character, she is very much of a time when, I mean, that happened everywhere, where women or girls who got pregnant were locked away and called mad, and terrible things, terrible freedom, their freedoms taken away, terrible things decided for them. And you know what's so beautiful is that you watch her finally at the end of her life come alive. Can you talk a bit about kind of exploring that character, because it's such a tragedy, and but still, I mean, there are still generations of women like her experiencing that.
Yes, and in other cultures it's different, but gets to the same point as well, you know. So it really gets to me, those kind of, you know, story path. That character, Marie des Neiges, is loosely inspired by the author's aunt. So she did dedicate her novel to her aunt, who was unjustly put away when she was a teenager, because she was maybe more, you know, she would go out with boys, and her parents, especially her father, was very strict and very religious, and so he couldn't allow that. And I was like, okay, what was it at that time? Is, you know, whatever, if you were how do you say that in English? Bipolar?
Yes.
Or whatever, you know, just like a bit more fantasist, or what would happen. And I think it was probably more difficult for women than men, as the same as for today. So I did have many conversations with the author about her aunt, right. And then I did some research as well, and so that's how I did structure her. And then when I did show the film in Canada and abroad, and some people came, especially that woman came to me, and she was crying, and her husband is a psychiatrist, and she in north of Ontario, and she was like, thank you for talking about those cases and those, you know, women, because there are still some, and it's unfair, you know. Let them have their chance.
Yeah. Oh God, I know. Yeah, we had our own situation in Ireland, and particularly, you know, with the Magdalene laundries and the same kind of thing. Yeah, as you said, it's still happening in other cultures, and it's very, very painful to know. But thank you for, you know, highlighting that in such a beautiful way, the freedoms that she finds at the end. So can you talk a bit about what was the experience of showing the film in Quebec and then also internationally? Like, what's happening in Quebecois cinema as well? Like, contextualize. I'm interested in your place in it, how you're feeling about the health of it, etc.
Actually, I think in Quebec we're quite lucky. There's a lot of creativity, and we are getting better and better as for writing films, and have different genres as well. So it's quite alive. We're not rich, you know, it's not big budgets, but it's still, and the audience from Quebec, we go see our films as well. So that's quite a privilege that they don't have in English Canada, because you know, they have the Americans and the Hollywood and, you know, British that goes it's just like they get crushed. And us, we're like, hopefully we have someone who streams our film. We're not sure. We just like, we don't put any limits. I think we just go with our hearts. And that's for that film. Yeah, for at some point Téléfilm Canada was like, yeah, really, you want to do that film? Why? I was like, there's something stronger than, there's a real story, and you reach the others, and I was like, I won't do something boring, I want to do something lively and with hope. And she was like, okay, the one woman at Telefilm. And then that film, I made the film, and while I was editing, we screened the film in editing with various people and visitors. And that woman at the end of the film, she was crying, and she said, okay, you did win your goal, it works. And then yes, the film did work well. We didn't expect that at all, because it's not something with action or comedy. It's just like, it's quite slow pace. It's with older characters, but it was I did a big box office. I think it was ranked 2 in Quebec and in Canada, actually. So people did go see the film, and many people saw it twice or 3 times, and they're like, okay, they feel good, it felt good to see the film and those characters. So it's a good thing.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Louise. So just a couple more questions, actually. So what's next? What are you working on now?
Well, just after that, I didn't write the story, but I did another film that was released at Christmas, during Christmas, and it's called Thanks for Everything in French. And it's comedy, and it's a road trip with 2 sisters to Magdalen Island. It's on the East Coast, beautiful, and it occurs during Christmas. So I did that, and now I'm working on 2 scripts. So we'll see, and maybe a TV series, but I was supposed to shoot this summer a TV series, and now it's like every day we're like, yes, no. It's quite difficult because of the COVID situation. So yeah, so it's quite. Then our film industry, it's we're quite affected by that situation, and I guess in England it's the same. It's, yeah, so we're just like slowly but surely trying to find solutions.
Yes. And who's exciting you in terms of other, particularly female writers and directors? Like who are you excited by, either at home or internationally?
Oh, yeah, female directors. I never think about, I think about directors, but it's like, I hope one day we won't say female directors, male directors, or transgender directors. We'll just say it's a good film, I like it or not, or whatever. But that's like, but okay, female, but for sure, Andrea Arnold, who did, Red Road, Fish Tank. Something that's very strong. What's her name? Who did comment ça s'appelle les requins? Sharks, the sharks. It's an old film. Is it Agnieszka Holland who did that? I think so.
Oh yes, Agnieszka Holland. Yeah, the Polish director. Yes. Yeah. Great director.
Yes.
We just worked on a series called Women Make Film, and it's got 175 filmmakers from the beginning of cinema till now. So I'm going to send it to you, Louise. It's really.
But I have many, but now it's like you put it me. Whoop.
Of course, I should have warned you that I was going to say that. Yes. And is there anything else that you wanted to say about the film, your work? Anything else you want to leave the audience with? Open up to different kind of films, cinemas, and you can get surprised. Even a big comedy, and then genre or
author film, because sometimes you're just like it's a wave that gets to you, and you just want to talk about it and then to share. And I think it's a great link to cross the borders and just connect all to one another and to understand more the other persons and other cultures, and to evacuate. I think we live in an era where fear is there in the media and stuff, and just to put that down and just to be connected to inside what we feel and other humans.
Mm-hmm. A woman to that, Louise. I agree with you 100%. And thank you for this conversation. It was really wonderful to talk to you. So we're going to be spotlighting the film to all our followers. So we have networks all around the UK. And so the film is available for our audience, just a plug, streaming exclusively on Curzon Home Cinema as part of the Canada Now collection. So a delight to talk to you. And I really wish you luck with everything you're doing.
In Canada Now, you have Sophie de Raspe, Antigone. It's excellent.
Okay, so that's another one to check out.
Yes.
Thank you, Louise.
Okay,
So lovely to meet you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.